She kicked my front door wide open before I could even catch my breath. Imagine stepping onto land your family has kept for 100 years, and the first thing you see is a stranger storming in, filming your walls like they're on trial. And the worst part? This woman, Cynthia Moore, the HOA president, laughed in my face while pointing at my grandfather's war medals, calling them violations. That was the moment I knew I wasn't dealing with rules. I was dealing with raw arrogance. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Lucas Carter. The sign out front still reads, Carter Ranch, since 1925. That land, that weathered sign, it's more than property, it's legacy. My grandfather Harold raised me here, teaching me that freedom wasn't some abstract idea. It was built into every acre of dirt, every fence post we hammered ourselves. When I came back after years away, I expected peace. What I got instead was Cynthia Blazer, white as fresh paint, hair yanked back so tight her whole face looked stretched, striding into my home like she owned the place. She carried a recording device already running, sweeping it across my living room as if documenting a crime scene. A standards inspection rights for violation documentation. She rattled off like she was quoting law, but I knew right away it was all fake. She called out penalties as if she had a price list. Fence height exceeds 6 feet, $150 penalty. House paint not on the approved pallet, $100 assessment. And then she zoomed her camera in on Harold's bronze star sitting in a glass case by the window. My throat tightened. That metal wasn't just metal, it was blood, sweat service. And this woman treated it like neighborhood clutter. I told her she was committing trespassing. She just smiled, adjusted the timestamp on her recorder, falsifying evidence right in front of me, and tossed a 48-hour compliance notice onto my kitchen counter like she was some federal agent. In that moment, I didn't know whether to throw her out or laugh at the insanity. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just some power-hungry neighbor nitpicking lawn height. This was a hostile takeover. Act 2. Escalation and turning point. The harassment didn't stop with her storming my house. No, that was just the opening move. Within days, my mailbox was stuffed with official-looking letters. Government assessments, environmental inspections, emergency authority notices, all plastered with logos and seals that looked real at first glance. But something was always off. The emails ended in .com, not .gov. The seals looked pixelated, printed cheap. But for someone less cautious, it would have fooled them. And it worked on my neighbors. Suddenly, folks who'd known my family for decades started whispering. At the store, I felt stares. At the diner, conversations stopped when I walked in. Someone even muttered that I was endangering community safety. And I'll admit it, I started to doubt myself. I'd sit at the kitchen table with Harold's diary, open letters scattered everywhere, and I'd think maybe I am making this harder than it needs to be. Maybe if I just gave in, let the HOA do whatever, I could keep some peace. Was I clinging too hard to pride? Maybe Harold's way fighting every battle wasn't mine. I almost folded. Then came Walter Briggs, 70 years old, sharp eyes behind old wireframe glasses, neighborhood historian for 4 decades. He showed up with a box so heavy he had to set it down with a grunt. Inside, authentic HOA charters, court records, letters dating back generations. He laid it out clear as day. HOAs only cover what's visible from the street. They have no authority inside your home. No power over heritage property that predates the development. Lucas, she's faking all of it. And then Walter told me something that changed everything back in 1987. My grandfather Harold had testified in court for another family, the Morrisons, who faced the exact same scam. A developer using forged documents, fake letters, intimidation tactics. Harold fought it and won. That night, staring at Harold's diary, I found the entry Walter mentioned. His handwriting shook, but his words were steady. Protecting boundaries protects community values. Never confuse intimidation for law. I realized I'd been handling this as just a grandson trying to protect his inheritance. But I wasn't just that. I was also the newly elected mayor of this town. I'd kept it quiet during the dispute, worried about conflict of interest. But in that moment, I knew staying silent would only enable Cynthia's fraud. I had both the knowledge and the responsibility to expose her. Act 3. The Showdown in Justice. The community meeting looked like something out of a courtroom drama. Folding chairs packed the elementary school cafeteria, cameras and phones everywhere, neighbors murmuring, reporters setting up tripods. The air buzzed with tension. Cynthia strutted in, rolling a suitcase behind her, pulling out folders so thick they could choke a shredder. She had supporters whispering in her ear, clearly coached. She was ready to put on a show. When I stood, all eyes turned. Most of you know me as Lucas Carter, grandson of Harold. What you may not know is that I am also your mayor. I've stayed quiet to avoid bias, but it's time the truth came out. Gasps, murmurs, phones raised higher. Cynthia leapt up, pointing at me like I was on trial. See, abuse of power. The mayor is covering up his own violations. I didn't flinch. I clicked to the projector screen. Walter's documents, Harold's letters, authentic county seals, side by side with Cynthia's forgeries. The difference was night and day. Neighbors started shouting, "Where's your warrant? Why didn't we get 30 days notice? Why does your email end in .com if you're government?" Cynthia's voice cracked as she repeated emergency community safety overrides individual property rights. But the words rang hollow. And then came the kill shot. The county's forensic examiner stepped forward with results. Hidden file data shows these documents were created 3 days ago. The signature of Harold Carter is a forgery. Municipal seals are counterfeit. These are fraudulent. The room exploded. People shouted forgery, fraud. Cynthia's hands trembled as sweat pooled on her forehead. She fumbled through her suitcase, pulling papers no one believed anymore. Her calm facade collapsed under the weight of evidence. Reporters swarmed, cameras rolling while deputies stepped in. I stood there steady, watching her empire of lies crumble in real time. The same woman who barged into my home, laughed in my face, treated my grandfather's sacrifice like trash, now cornered, desperate, exposed as a criminal. And just like that, the power flipped. Closing line. That night, as Cynthia was escorted out, I thought about Harold's words one last time. Because intimidation only works until someone shines a light on it.